Don't cry because the Big Ten football season is about half over. Smile because the remaining half is going to be real good. This conference has as good as a top core of teams as any conference in America, and it's why I believe this year is as confident as I felt that a Big Ten team can take home a college football playoff national title.
From LA to Piscataway, all Big Ten all year long. This is Big Ten 10.
Man, here we are, week 6 in the books. A lot of teams are right at the midway point in their college football season. It's crazy that we're already at this point, but here we are. It's time to break things down. When I look at this conference, when I look at the Big Ten right now, they have the best Tier 1 in America, and I don't really think it's all that close. Right, number 2, Michigan in the AP poll. Number 3, Ohio State now. And then you look at the 6th-ranked Nittany Lions of Penn State. And all 3 of those teams are dominant. All 3 of those teams are elite because of their defenses. When you power rank the top defenses in all of college football, you might do uno, dos, tres. These 3 teams stacked right on top of each other as the best defenses in the United States of America right now. Like, you look at the SEC now, of course you've got Georgia, number 1. They looked really dominant against Kentucky, but they've shown chinks in the armor so far this season. They haven't looked as dominant as some Georgia teams have looked in the past. Of course, the back-to-back national champions over there. When I look at the Big Ten, they've looked dominant, they've looked elite, and it's because of their defenses right now. And in the SEC, outside of Georgia, you got teams like Alabama and Ole Miss outside of the top 10s, between number 10 and number 15 in the country right now. They just don't have that top-end elite team outside of Georgia, or teams, plural, outside of Georgia that the Big Ten has right now. I think they were anticipating maybe LSU would be up there. They took it on the chin against Florida State, and LSU has really dropped off so far to really start this season. But the Big Ten, man, this is, when I've looked the past 5 years, the past 10 years, I've kind of looked around. And when I've gotten to the midway point in the season, I've said, well, I look at Bryce Young over here, 2020, Mac Jones and Devontae Smith and what they were doing at Alabama. You go back to 2019 with LSU and Joe Burrow, and you've really looked around. It's like, yeah, I don't know. I mean, I feel decent. I feel good. I just don't feel great that a Big Ten team can knock off an SEC team. This is as good as I felt that a Big Ten team can knock off a team like the Georgia Bulldogs. This is as good as I felt halfway through the year that the Big Ten can win their first national championship since the inaugural college football playoff in the year 2014 when Urban Meyer and the Ohio State Buckeyes got it done. Another crazy thing, okay, the Big Ten has the top Tier 1 in the country. You know who's Tier 2? 1, it's a conference that won't exist next year, and it's the Pac-12, right, with Washington number 7, Oregon number 8. Those 2 teams going to play each other this weekend, and the 10th-ranked USC Trojans. Despite not having a defense whatsoever, USC still finds themselves in the top 10 in the country. And you know what all 3 of those teams have in common? They coming our way next year. They are coming to the Big Ten Conference. 6 out of the top 10 teams ranked in the AP poll right now next season are going to be in the Big Ten. That's crazy to me. We'll see. I know there's going to be a lot of talent drop-off and some talent departing from those West Coast schools, but still, that's a pretty good sign for the future if you're the Big Ten right now. I got this feeling that one of these 3 teams, Michigan, Ohio State, and Penn State, I got a feeling that their defense, and of course what we're seeing on a lot of these offenses as well, this could be the year that the Big Ten could break through and win a national championship. Okay, so we know starting in 2024, we talked about schedules earlier this week, we know that's going to be really tough. The Big Ten is going to be really tough next season, and it's going to be really tough for Big Ten West teams, and that's kind of where I want to go. The final year of the Big Ten West. Right now, that division goes through Madison, Wisconsin. Right now, Wisconsin, I believe, is in a situation where they really control their own destiny. At the beginning of the season, I thought that the Wisconsin Badgers were the most talented team in the West Division on the offensive side of the ball. About halfway through the season, I still feel that way. And it's maybe not because of the newness. It's not because of Phil Longo. It's not because of Tanner Mordecai. It's not because of these wide receivers that came in here. The more things change, the more they stay the same. Wisconsin is at their best. They control their own destiny because they've got the number one rushing offense in the entire Big Ten Conference. Hand the ball off to Braylon Allen. When Braylon Allen succeeds, the Wisconsin Badgers succeed. I don't think this offense has really lived up to the lofty expectations that I'll admit people like myself and others gave to them coming into this season, but that run game is still really good. You've still got a lot of Paul Chryst type of personnel on this team, and you're seeing that. But Tanner Mordecai, 3 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. I'd probably, throughout 5 games that Wisconsin has played this season, I'd probably take the interceptions, but I wouldn't take the touchdowns. Wisconsin still needs to get better through the year if they really want to lock up a West Division championship, and we know that all starts this Saturday when they take on the Iowa Hawkeyes in Madison, Wisconsin. That's kind of another reason why I say that the West runs through Madison, because that big game, the head-to-head that might end up deciding this division, is played in the friendly confines of Camp Randall Stadium. And then when you take a look at this Badgers defense, it's good enough right now. It's 7th in the conference in scoring defense. Of course, they took on a lot of pass attempts. That pass defense really got tested early on during the season. They were kind of going through a lot of changes, and this whole defense has gone through a lot of changes as well. But slowly but surely, they've been getting better. I know Rutgers had a limited defense, but a limited offense, but that defensive performance by Wisconsin is going to give them a lot of confidence going forward. Guys like James Thompson and Darrell Peterson are better up front on the defensive line for Wisconsin, kind of top 5 in the Big Ten in categories like tackles for loss and sacks as well. You look at what Ricardo Holman has done, taking the football away. Hunter Wohler in the defensive backfield as well. This Badger defense kind of coming along. It's probably the most complete team in the Big Ten West. We'll see if they can get it done against that vaunted Hawkeye defense this weekend. Kind of a couple of other points that I want to get in on before I get out of here in this video. Illinois is a very bad football team, folks. Okay, beginning of the season, I said Illinois could be the surprise of the Big Ten by winning 8 games again. They still might be the surprise of the Big Ten, just in a bad way for how much they've regressed this season. This is very un-Brett Bielema-like to have a team that, a couple of years ago winning that 9 overtime game in Happy Valley against Penn State. You can start to see it kind of going up, and then they win 8 games. And then, man, it's just come crashing down this year. Their offensive line is porous. You see them getting pushed back a lot towards Luke Altmaier. This run game with Reggie Love, Josh McCray, no matter who you throw in there is absolutely no semblance of a run game right now in Champaign, Illinois. Of course, we know about the defense and the regression that has gone on there as well, but this is an Illinois team. It's tough for me to imagine 3 more wins even on the schedule for the Illini, so they got to do something. And now we talked about at the top of this video with all of these great teams, these programs that recruit at such a high level on the West Coast coming in next season. Where does that leave a developmental program like Illinois? Where does that leave their expectations going to 2024, going to 2025, after Chase Brown, after Sidney Brown, after Devin Witherspoon, after all those really talented players left? Can they replicate that down the road? I think that's going to be a big question for the folks in Champaign. Let's talk about Maryland. This can be a 9-3 team. And to be honest, for Terps fans, it might be a disappointment if this team is below 9-3 at the end of this season, because I think this Maryland team has really established themselves as the top team in the conference outside of the big 3 of Ohio State, Michigan, and Penn State. I think one thing in their recent game, this past Saturday's game against Ohio State, that impressed me is that offensive line. They were opening up pretty big holes in the run game, especially there in the first half. This is a Maryland team that's gotten a lot better on defense. They've gotten a lot better in the trenches as these years have gone on. Of course, the last couple of years, when you think about Maryland, you think of Talia Tagovailoa, you think of these wide receivers, but this Terps team has gotten better in a lot of other facets and a lot of other groups within this football team. But you go 9-3, you win a bowl game, you go to 10-3, boy, that's a huge step in the right direction for a program like Maryland going into an 18-team Big Ten conference, it's going to be a lot different and a lot more difficult kind of going forward. I really believe Mike Locksley might be one of, if not the most underrated coach in all of college football. I got to wrap up with this. Man, if you want, we got the schedules earlier in the week, and I know this isn't technically a reaction to anything, it's technically a preview and a looking ahead, but I got to talk about it because I don't know if I'll have an opportunity in a busy week to really talk about it. Oregon and Washington, you want to look at future Big Ten programs, now is your chance to do so. I am so excited to have the Ducks and the Huskies going at it in this huge matchup. We've talked about how much these programs hate each other, how underrated maybe this rivalry is when you talk about the top rivalries in college football. Now, these are probably the two best teams in the deepest conference in America in the Pac-12. I can't wait to see it. Bo Nix slinging it around for Oregon. You've got Michael Penix slinging it around with that great wide receiving core at the University of Washington. I think this is going to come down to, can Oregon slow down Washington in front of the greatest setting in college football up there in Seattle? It is going to be a fun showdown. It's very rarely I put a non-Big Ten game on my second screen, on one of my two screens. Oregon and Washington, I think you earned it. No disrespect to Illinois and Maryland, but Oregon and Washington, Ducks and Huskies, can't wait to see you in the conference in 2024. Can't wait to watch this matchup this weekend. I want to hear what you guys think. Who do you think is coming out? Where do you think a lot of these teams sit right now? Do you think Wisconsin? Do you think the Big Ten West runs through Madison like I do? Do you think this year is as good as any for a Big Ten team to win a national title? Leave your thoughts in the comments below. I'm Big Ten Ted. We'll see you in the next one.
Thanks for watching Big Ten Ted, where it's all Big Ten all year long. Make sure to like the video to spread the word of Big Ten Ted to the masses, and subscribe to the channel for updates on Big Ten content that drops every day.